saving the country, one person, one family, one entrepreneur, one town at a time. I have a new dream.
GBTV in 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello, America. I haven't finished on the chalkboard yet. We have a lot to do tonight, and I don't know if we're going to be able to. We have 2 hours. This is a show that I've waited to do for quite some time. It's actually good news. It's what you need to do to prepare personally, not as a group, not as a collective, but what you need to do to prepare personally. I've never called my wife and told her to make sure she was watching the show and write notes so we could talk about it after the show. Today I did. Hi, honey. We'll get to what should be your plan for the future. How do you survive the storm that's coming? Take it for what it's worth. We'll do that after we check the news with Amy Holmes. Amy?
Thanks, Glenn. So, should George W. Bush be arrested for war crimes? One human rights group says yes. I'm Amy Holmes, bringing you the stories we're following at theblaze.com. Today, Amnesty International issued a 1,000-page memorandum requesting that Canadian authorities either prosecute or extradite the former president over his participation in the CIA's terrorist detention program. The American director at Amnesty International said in a statement that, quote, Canada is required by its international obligations to arrest and prosecute former President Bush, given his responsibility for crimes under international law, including torture. Well, no word yet on if Canadian authorities intend to comply with the group's demand. Disturbing report from Pakistan that a 12-year-old Christian girl was repeatedly raped and beaten for months by a militant Islamic organization. According to Asian Human Rights Commission, members of the group Lashkar-e-Taiba kidnapped the girl while she was on a shopping trip. She was held for 8 months and subjected to daily abuse for refusing to convert to Islam. So far, none of the militants have been arrested. Meanwhile, Pakistani authorities have been reportedly ignoring the case. We'll be sure to bring you updates on this story as they come in. And some Israelis think the price paid for the freedom of one of its country's soldiers may be too high. A deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas to release Israeli Defense Force soldier Gilad Shalit from Hamas control. According to Israeli authorities, Hamas has agreed to free Shalit, who's been held captive since 2006, in exchange for the release of over 1,000 Palestinians from Israeli jails. Some families of terror victims say that the trade amounts to capitulation. Yossi Mendelovich, whose son was murdered by Palestinian terrorists in 2003, said of the deal, quote, I have been fighting this deal for 5 years, and I staunchly oppose the release of terrorists, murderers, and convicts. In fact, Israel is surrendering to a terror organization by freeing killers. The Israeli father adds, we can replace our blue and white flag with a white one to symbolize its surrender. Since his capture, Shalit has only been seen once by outsiders via a video recording. He could be released as early as next week. I'm Amy Holmes, and we'll be back at the bottom of the hour.
Thanks, Amy. Hello, America. Welcome to GBTV. I didn't intend on doing this show just a few days ago. I am no different than you. I'm just a guy trying to figure it out and protect my family and protect my country. I have recently, I believe the things that I say, and I am a guy diametrically opposed to myself right now, and I know how that usually works out. Right now, everything in me tells me what I'm telling you every night. And yet, everything in me tells me to put every dime I have into this. But beyond this, I'm about to take on massive debt. I don't have debt. My company has never taken on debt. We've always done things small, and we've always done it slowly. It seems absolutely crazy to me. And I'm not going to keep asking if that's right. I will listen and obey. In my own head, I can't figure out how this works. But if I am living under a bridge in the end, I'm okay with that. My wife and I were poor 10 years ago, and I'm cool. I'm totally cool with that. We were just as happy, if not happier, then. It's not about money, it's about doing the right thing. And we try to do that, and I know you do as well. I have prayed and prayed and prayed for the answers that I'm going to give you today. And I have to tell you, I don't know if these answers are right for you. I was writing something on Sunday, and these answers just came. I'm a guy who am making crazy business moves right now. I left the biggest and best cable news network at the pinnacle of news in the world. It was insane to leave. And I was told, in fact, you'll never leave. And I said, yeah, I will. No, because nobody ever does. And I said, yes, there has been one man that did leave news at the top of his career. And I know everybody called him crazy, but that one person was Jack Parr. He's the guy who invented The Tonight Show. And he left. And I think it was because he just needed to be true to himself. I remember before I left, I watched his last episode, and he did it with his dogs. You might remember a conversation that I told you about, I told you a little bit about, a conversation that I had with Billy Graham. I never really told you the details about that, and some of them are only for me and my family and for Reverend Graham. But I do want to share this. When I went down to visit Reverend Graham, I sat with him. We were supposed to sit for about an hour, and we ended up talking for, I think we were there for 4 hours. And we had Chinese food for lunch, which was, I never thought I'd have Chinese food in North Carolina at the top of a mountain with Billy Graham, but I did. And I sat with him, and I said, I want to talk to you about a few things. I said, one, I'm going to leave Fox. And he looked at me like I was a madman. And he said, why on earth would you do that? He said, I watch you, and you're telling the truth. He said, do you know how many people will fall into darkness if there aren't people like you? I said, I have had this conversation with the man upstairs. It's my argument as well. How could I possibly lose that voice? You gave me that voice. How could I lose that voice? He looked at me for a while and he said, if I were the adversary, that's exactly what I would want you to do. He said, how do you know that that came from God, that prompting? And I explained to him that because when I think of it as a man, I'm afraid. But when I pray about it, I'm at peace. He looked at me and he said, well, that's the way I know. He said, you're about to go on a journey where I spent most of my life doing the things that I half understood, just trying to get them right and not really understanding them. Someday I'll tell you about the entire conversation we had, but this is why I'm telling you about this now. Things are changing rapidly. As I said at the beginning of the hour, I've never called my wife and said, hey, honey, make sure you have a sitter for the kids, and I want you to really watch the show with a pen and paper. My kids and family are not living here in New York with me right now for a myriad of reasons, and we don't have, I've been on Skype with them, and most of my nights lately have been running until about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't had a lot of time to talk to my wife. And we've emailed and talked with the kids, kind of screaming in the background. And when I wrote this Sunday, I sent it to her. And I said, honey, you know me, and you know that when I feel very, very hopeful, that usually means trouble. And I didn't write this. And that's all I said to her. And we haven't had a chance to really even talk about it. I haven't even had a chance to go over it with her. And here I am being a bad husband and going over it with you at the same, with you and her at the same time. So she's watching the show now after getting a babysitter, so she can talk with me about doing these things. What I'm about to tell you is a list that I am doing myself. I want you to know, and this is very important because people are going to, of course, mock me, and I don't really care anymore. I apologize to you for making your position as a fan more difficult than necessary. I've made mistakes. I've made your job to get the word out more difficult. And I don't want to continue to do that with this, but it is going to be most likely smeared and everything else and taken out of context. I want you to know this is not panic, but I do feel urgency on this. I want you to look at some of the faces. These are some of the most influential leaders in the world right now. Out of all of these leaders, how many of these leaders would you guess have said that our current economic path is absolutely unsustainable? How many? How many know that if we don't start getting out of what we're doing, we're in serious, serious trouble, and they're warning of a global economic catastrophe? How many? Answer? All of them. Now look at these people. If we include lifestyles are getting too grotesque and the wars are growing too rapidly, they warn of an economic collapse. How many? The commonality is all of them. They are all warning us of grave danger ahead. All of them. People don't make fun of them. So the warning that I give you tonight is not me. It's them. But none of them are telling you how to solve it. I haven't been either. But that's because I don't know. I didn't know. They don't tell you because they know you won't like it. I'm going to tell you tonight, you may not like the things I have to say, and a lot of people won't do it because they don't want to think about it. I've been labeled the crazy guy for saying these things for all these years, but you no longer have to take it only from me. To quote Al Gore, there is a consensus and the debate is over. We all agree that there's severe danger ahead. Now, what are you going to do about it? Even the book by Anonymous, this is a book by Anonymous, this is the occupation cookbook, all of these things, they have plans for shelter, for food, how to dress, real detailed plans on what happens after the revolution. Even the anarchists, you know, the ones who are trying to instigate worldwide chaos, they have a manual on getting prepared. Do you? Soros is prepared. The politicians are prepared. I assume that if you're watching GBTV, you have already prepared a little bit for impact. First thing that went through my mind this morning, as I woke up and I said my prayers, first thing I heard and felt this morning was, brace for impact. I don't know what that means, and I don't know how long. I don't know. But the magic fairy, the job fairy is not going to come and put pixie dust and fix it. You have to take steps to prepare.